we're going to be adding in some menus to the game. So a menu that will come up at the beginning of the game where we could select some options and get some instructions, and that will launch our game. And then when the game is over, we'll have a menu screen that will do some high scores and some other things just to kind of wrap the game up. At this point we have most of the core gameplay in here. There's still some game balancing and tweaking to be done, of course, as in any game project that you're working in. But let's go ahead and add some menus in. So there's a couple of different ways we could do this. We could keep everything running in one scene and just pop up menus and drop menus and so forth and so on, or we could actually make menus in different scenes and load those scenes. So let's maybe do one way and one the other so you get to see it both ways. So we'll start working on a menu screen for when the game begins. So like our start screen, our landing page, our welcome screen, whatever you want to call it. So let's do that in a new scene. To get a new scene in Unity, you just go up to File and say New Scene. And what that does is it puts us in a whole new scene. The old scene is still there. Matter of fact, here's my main scene right here. So a scene file has the Unity symbol on it. And now we have this new one here that's called Untitled currently. Here's where you can see what the title of your scene is that you're currently in. It's going to be right here before the name of your project. So the first thing you usually want to do is go ahead and name and save your scene so that you don't forget to do that later. So you can just go to File and just say Saved Scene As, and we can give it a new name here. So we'll just call this our Start Menu and hit Save. And now Start Menu is down here in our Asset panel along with our main scene. Alright, so our Start Menu is going to be just a bunch of UI type things that are happening. So we're going to need a canvas and some text and buttons and things like that. So let's go ahead and add a canvas to our hierarchy. You can either go to Create, UI, Canvas, or you can also get that menu just by right-clicking anywhere in the hierarchy window and you get the same menu. Alright, so we're going to get the canvas. And again, remember the canvas draws really large off to the side. It will match the size of your game screen though when it's done. They just put it off to the side to make it easy to see and to work in. So let's kind of zoom in on that a bit. So this will match up with our actual screen size. So the first thing we need is a title up in the top here. So let's get a text box. So we're just going to right click on canvas here and go to UI and say text. Again, whenever you do UI, the first thing you want to do is look at the anchor points so you can position this box where you want it to be. Right now it's right in the middle of our screen, and you can see here is our anchor point, and if I click that anchor point preset box there, it gives me all the different presets I can pick. I want the title to stay up towards the top center of the screen, so I'm going to select top center. And now this little X here shows me that this box is anchored to the top of the screen, which means that as the screen size changes, it's going to try to maintain the same amount of distance between this point and where the box currently is. So we can move these around. By default, when we go into our canvas, we're in the rectangle tool here. So we can just grab a hold of it and drag it around here if we want. So let's move this up towards the top here. And let's go ahead and make it a little wider too. So you could just stretch it from the sides here, but then it doesn't keep it centered. You can always move it back to the center, it'll snap in, or you can go up here and just change the width. And if I change the width to something like 450, it'll stay centered around the center of the screen there. Okay, so that's another way you can do that. I'm probably going to want to have a little bit larger text here as well. Right now it's 30 pixels high. So let's maybe put 100 in there just to give us a little bit more space. And then let's just put some text in that box. Maybe we'll just call it, we'll call it Asteroids 2017, because it is 2017 currently when we're making this video. Now you can see here's a preview of what it will look like, and it's really tiny. And again, the shortcut, if you haven't seen it from another video, to make this go to full screen is hold your shift key down and hit the space bar, and this will move it to full screen so you can see what your finished game will look at full size, at full resolution. And you can tell it's not centered, it's really small, the color is bad, maybe we want a different font. So we can always check to see what it looks like there if we go to full screen. To go back, I can just hold shift and hit the space bar again and it will go back. So let's start by just getting this somewhat blocked in the way we want it. So let's make the font size a little bigger. Let's try 50. We'll leave that for the moment. And then alignment, the center, align it both vertically and horizontally. And let's give it a different color. So let's give it kind of a, I don't know, maybe a yellowish color. Now we can also think about what we want the background of our menu to be as well. We probably don't want it to be this blue color. So let's set that right away so we can see how our other color choices will look. So if you go to your camera, we could just change the background camera color here. So here's my background and my camera, and let's just go ahead and drag that to black. We'll just do black. This is a space game, so we'll kind of make it look like this menu is maybe kind of out in space as well. We have our title for now. Maybe we want that to be a little bit larger. So again, this is just your preference, but I'm going to go in here and pump this text up to 75. Now you'll notice when I did that I lost the 2017. It's still in my text box here, but what's happened is I ran out of space in my text box. And you can see down here that we have overflows. Right now it says horizontal overflow is to wrap to a new line. Well, there's not enough room. If I was to pull this down, you'll see it pop in. See, that's what it's doing right now. Now if I want to force it to stay on the same line always, then what I can do is either make the box wider, or I could go here to where it says horizontal overflow and I could change it from wrap to overflow. And when I do that, I'm telling Unity it's okay if it goes past the edges of my box if it needs to. So let's try that. Let's also try moving this to a bold font. Make it a little bolder and brighter. There we go. Alright, so there's our game. And then we need some buttons because we're going to need to be able to, at the very least, start this game. So let's go to our canvas and let's right click right there in the hierarchy. Go to UI and let's add in a button. Alright, so let's play with this button a bit and get it to the size that we want it to be. We want this to be a button that will allow us to start our game. So let's make this button a little bit bigger. Right now it's 160 by 30. Let's make it maybe a little taller. Let's try 50 and maybe let's go to 225. Nice big button here. It's staying centered right here on the screen. Again, we'll have to decide where we want this button to be. So maybe we'll just leave it right here in the center for now, and we'll just leave it with a center anchor point. Let's also look at the background of this button. I don't think I want white, so to change the background of the button, you can just click here in the image section of your button in the inspector, and you can get a background color for this image here. So let's maybe go with some sort of a blue, something like that perhaps. And then let's work on the text on the button. So to get to the button's text, you actually have to open the button up here in the hierarchy, and there's a text in here that's a child of the button. That's just your standard text box that's on top of there, and it's just set to stretch to fill the whole button. Okay, so we're going to call this the start game button. And again, it's really tiny to see. We can check that in full screen to see what it looks like, and yeah, you can see how that text is really small, doesn't really hold up real good. So let's go back and let's up that font. Let's try 25. Let's try a different color here. We could turn it to black if we want it to stand out a little bit more that way. And let's go up a little bit more on our size. We'll try 30, and that doesn't look too bad. So we'll just leave it like that for the moment. Okay, so I've got a button here for starting my game. So the next thing I need to do is go ahead and hook this button up. So let's see if we can get this button when we click it to launch our game and start us off. Alright, so the main way that we work with buttons in Unity is to add an event to the button. So if I select the button here and I go over and scroll down a bit in the inspector, you're going to see the section that's called on click. This is an event box here. It's for a click event, which means that if I click on this button, it will do whatever I tell it to in the on-click box here. Right now it's doing nothing. The list is empty. If I hit the plus sign, I will get an event here. Now still it's not going to do anything because it's an empty event. What I need to do is tell it what I want it to do when the button is clicked. In this case, I want it to load our main game level so that the game starts. So that's going to require some code. So I'm going to need this button to know where the function is that I want it to run when it is clicked. So we currently don't have any scripts in this main scene here, in our menu scene. So let's go and add a script to our camera. A lot of times if you just need a couple of things to control buttons, you can just add it to your camera, or you can add it to the button itself. I tend to like to put them on in one place on the camera, and then if multiple buttons need things, I know it's on my camera. But there's different ways to set this up. So let's go to the camera and let's add a script to it. So let's go to our project panel. Let's create a C# script. We'll just call this menu. And let's attach it to our camera. So I'm just going to drag and drop it up here onto my camera. And now that script is there. Let's open that script up in MonoDevelop. We're not going to need the start or the update function in here. We're just going to use this to keep some functions for our buttons to run. Alright, so we're going to make a public void, and then we're going to call this start game. Alright, whoops, got an extra bracket in here. Alright, public void start game. We have to make sure that these functions are marked as public because we're going to have the button call this function. So if it's not public, we won't be able to see it when we select it from our button list. Alright, so start game, what that's going to do is it's going to load into our main game level. So I'm going to have to put another using up here at the top to get access to our scene management stuff. So we're going to say using Unity engine dot scene management. That gets us access to being able to load, unload levels, things like that. Alright, so then down here, since I've done that, I can say scenemanager dot load scene, and then I have to tell it which scene to load. No, I can do it by name, or I can do it by a scene build index number. Okay, so we're going to do this by scene name as a string. So we have to put quotes here, and then inside the quotes we put the name of our scene. Our scene name is the name of our scene as we named it here. So this is main, capital M. Main is our scene name, so that's what I'm going to give it here, like that. Alright, so I'm going to save that. Now there's one more step here. Whenever you want to load a scene, you have to make sure those scenes are in your scenes in build settings. So to get to that, you go up to File, and then you go to Build Settings, and it has to show up here in our scenes in build. Now it's already here. If it wasn't, I could just drag and drop it up in here. And since I'm going to probably go back to the start menu at some point, let's go ahead and just add the start menu scene in here as well. And as a matter of fact, when the game first starts, it's going to default load whatever is in the top of this list. So I'm going to actually drag the start menu to the top here so that it's the first in the scenes in build. So when Unity launches this game, if we build it out into its executable format, it will start with whatever is at index 0 here in our scene. So main is now in here, so as our start menu. You don't have to push anything here. We're just going to leave this alone. This is what we're building for. We are building for PC. And then we'll just close this window. It will remember what we did automatically. Now that we've got the script with the function in it, we just have to hook it up to the button. So I'm just going to go click on my button down here to get it selected, and then down here in the on click, we already hit the plus sign to add an event, but now we have a script that we want it to run. So I have to give it an object. So if I make this bigger, you'll see it says none object right here. It needs to know what object it's looking at to find a script. So if you remember, the script is on our camera. So I'm going to grab the camera and drop it in here. So now I'm telling it when I click this button, go to the camera, and then from this no function drop down, I'm going to select this, and I'm going to find the script name. So the script name I had was menu, and then from menu I can look for the function, and that was start game. So I'm going to select that. So now it says main camera script. See a little C# right there, and it's looking for menu. Okay, I can drag that over more to see it. So it's going to go to menu.startGame, which is what we want. So it's going to call that start game function from our menu. So if I run this now, I'm going to save the scene and then hit play, and let's make a little bit more space here for our game window. And if I hit start game here, it now loads my game, and here we go. And the game is now playable, just like it was before. Alright, and if we were to clear this level, we would get that, and oh, here comes my alien trying to shoot at me. So everything is working just like we had it before in that level. It loaded it up just fine. Okay, so that is getting our level to load here with a start game button, and we may want some other buttons here as well. Maybe one that gives instructions for the game would be useful, or you could have instructions just listed right here in the background of this screen. All you'd have to do would be to go to your canvas and drop in another text box for that. As a matter of fact, we should probably label these buttons and text a little bit better for their names, just to keep track. So if we were to do more of this later, we could know what we're doing here. So this is like our title text for our game. This button here, let's rename this to our start game button, because as we get more things in here, it's going to be hard if they're called text 1, text 2, whatever. Alright, so that gets us our start button going, and we could jazz this menu up a little bit more if we wanted to. We get some asteroids drifting around in here. We could get some stars moving in the background with the particle system. Lots of different things we could do here, but that gets us started with our start menu. So that's an example of menus which are actually in their own scene, and then just loading a new scene to start the game. The other thing we want to do is do a menu for when the game is over. That will allow us either to go back to the start, or we'll have it show us some high scores, things like that. So let's go back to our main scene where our game is. To switch scenes, you just double click the scene that you want to go to, and always make sure you're saving. So yes, I do want to save the changes I made there. Now I'm back into my main scene. You can see up here at the top of the in the top menu bar, it says main.unity, which says now I'm working in the main scene. And let's make a pop-up menu here for when the game is over. Okay, so out here in our main menu, we already have our game over panel that we're just popping in and out. So we're just going to add to this now some replayability or some other functions to it. So let's just turn that back on by checking the box in its game object part to see what we have. We have our play again button, which is going to load us back up into the game here. So we're calling on the spaceship controls the play again, and we also have this menu button over here that doesn't do anything. So this menu button, we're going to want that to take us back to our other scene that we just set up. So we can actually do that pretty easily here by just adding to our script somewhere. So we put this in the space controls, so maybe we should have a different script for this to do, but we can go back out to menu here by making a new function here that's just going to load us to that other scene. So since I put the other one in the spaceship controls, let's go and do the same thing there. So in spaceship controls, let's find that script where we're reloading. Let's see, play again. Okay, so we're loading the scene main here for play again. Let's go ahead and make another function for the menu button to go back to main menu. So again, it has to be public. It's void because we're not returning any information from the function. And let's just say go to main menu. Let's call it that. So all we have to do is say scenemanager, load scene, just like we did for reloading here. But this time we're going to load in our menu. So let's make sure we know what the name of that is. So if I go back here, I can see it's called Start Menu, capital S, capital M with a space. That's all important to spell it exactly the same way. So right here, let's type that in, Start Menu, so that it matches exactly. All right, then we'll go out here into Unity. We'll click on our menu button. And on our menu button, we will click the plus sign to add an event. We will drag in our spaceship because he has the script that has the function we want. We'll go to spaceship controls, that's the script name, and then we'll go to the go to main menu function, so we'll call that. Alright, we'll save our scene, Control S. Let's take our lives down to 1 here so that when we test this, we don't have to die so many times. So here's my lives, let's change that down to 1, and then let's hit play, and let's just run into one of these asteroids here, hard enough to die. Okay, and here's my game over menu popping up. So then, oh, and here's something else you might need to adjust on our alien. You notice that my alien showed up because I died before he spawned. So another thing our game over should probably do is disable the alien so he doesn't come back. But it's okay. Actually, it looks kind of cool having him fly around back there. Okay, so if I hit the menu button here, it now loads me back to my main menu. If I hit the start game, it takes me back into the game. And of course, if I die and I hit play again, it'll just automatically load me back in. And we could actually take that play again away if we wanted to and force everybody back to the main menu. Just depends on what you want to do. Alright, so that is an end of the game level menu and a start menu. So let's go back to our main menu here now. Let's save what we did here. And back to the main menu. Now, let's not only have a start button here, but let's have a quit button as well, because maybe our player has had enough of playing our game, wants to go do something else. So let's go to our canvas, let's right click. Actually, once we have one button here, I always like to just duplicate these because it keeps everything kind of uniform. So I'm just going to right click the button, we'll duplicate it, and let's drag that duplicate button. So let's drag that off of here, maybe we'll put it underneath. We'll rename this button as our quit game button. And we can take the 1 off the end here, we don't need that. So a quit game button. Let's go underneath that button and change its text to quit game. Or we could say exit game or whatever you want, but there you go, it says quit game. We could make it a different color if we want to. I think we'll just leave it the same here for now. And then quit game, we don't want it to run this on click because it did copy that as well from the start game button, so do be aware that it will make an exact duplicate of whatever you've got when you duplicate it. We just want to change this, so we're going to want to go to our menu script, and we're going to want to make a new function for quitting the game. So let's go into our menu script here again. And let's just make another public function here. Public void. We'll call this quit game. And what we want quit game to do is just to quit our game. So, right, so we're going to say application.quit. That will quit the player application. Need some parentheses and a semicolon. So basically, when this is built out in its final version, in its standalone running version, it's going to play in its own window on your system. And the application.quit command will close that window and flush out everything that was stored in memory for that game and all of that. So that's all you need to say to actually make the game go away. Now, this will not actually work in your editor. So if we hit the quit button, once we hook it up out there, it won't actually quit. So just to make sure that it's actually working, let's go ahead and put a debug log in here. So debug.log, and let's just say quit button was pressed just so we can make sure that it's actually going to this function, doing what we wanted to, and that'll show up in our editor so that we know that we've done that. All right, so let's save the menu script here and go back into Unity. We'll go to our Quit Game button, and now what we want to do, we're already hooked to the main camera and to the script that's on there, so we can actually just go back down the menu here, and let's just select a different function to run. Quit Game is what we want this time. So our quit button will now call the Quit Game function, and if I play this, and let's make a little more space here, if I click on quit, you'll see down here in my console, quit button was pressed. And again, if we had this built out in our standalone executable version, it would have closed the window the game was running in and quit the game. So now we've got a quit button here. Now the other thing I thought would be kind of cool to do would be to keep high scores in this game. And then we could build a high score menu that would display that. And we could just automatically display that at the end. And we could also have that load up from a button from our start menu here or from our quit game menu. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to break that out into its own video because that way this one won't get so long. So next video we're going to learn how to save scores on a local machine and then how to display those through the menus. Thanks as always for watching the video. I hope you found this one interesting and fun. And if you have any questions or suggestions, please leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching.